Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Shania, and this is my very first YouTube video where I'm going to be sharing all my notes from the month of September. In this video, I'm going to be going through all the things that I've learned so far as a beginner ceramicist, as well as sharing all my thoughts and reflections that I've had throughout the month as someone who has just begun sharing content online. And I hope you enjoy, so let's get on with the video. So for the month of September, in all my studio sessions, my goal was to practice making cylinders because that's the shape, that's the basis of pretty much every single form for pottery. And so at the start of this session, I was following a tutorial, and that's when I realized that as a left-handed potter, I was using the wrong hands for applying force to the clay when centering. And so originally I was using my left hand to apply horizontal force and my right hand to apply downward force, but it's actually the opposite. And after realizing that and trying to switch it up, I ended up realizing that it was a lot easier to actually manipulate the clay, which I'm really glad I found out. And it's kind of unfortunate that that wasn't caught, or I hadn't caught that earlier, but I'm glad that I know now. And something that I really liked about this tutorial was that it introduced the idea that you should try to stay as anchored as you possibly can, because instead of using your arm strength to apply pressure to the clay, when you're anchored, it allows you to have more leverage when you're moving forward or just moving around in general, and it uses your body weight instead of muscle strength alone. And so the video that I was watching to learn how to throw cylinders was this video called How to Throw a Cylinder by Mudgirl Pottery. I really liked that video because I felt like it was very straightforward, and she put into perspective what kind of forces you'd be needing to apply to clay as you throw a cylinder, which is something that for me, with looking for different tutorials to follow on YouTube, I hadn't really found yet. And so I felt like I was able to really follow this video, and throughout this session, which was about 3 hours, I rewatched that video over and over and over again just so I could really grasp what she was saying. And so for this instance, as I'm coating the clay with my hands going the right way, with my wheel spinning clockwise, I felt like I had a lot more control over the clay, being able to really generate power and not having to use so much of my arm strength to get the clay to move up and down as I was coating it. And I really like the sensation of having my hands be more stable, because if this is something that you haven't experienced, especially if you're a beginner, the first time you get to go through it, it just feels like, wow, like something just clicks in your brain where you kind of are really starting to grasp what's going on as you're moving the clay. And so in this session as well, something that I've been really struggling with was being kind of confused and guessing at what step I need to do and at what time. And by being able to just go into the studio and practice for as long as I wanted, it made it a lot easier to not feel rushed. Taking my 7-week beginners course, as you're making pieces and you're going through class, you're starting and stopping your wheel and listening to the instructor, there are times where I felt like, oh, I can't just make cylinder after cylinder and really get a grasp of how to do it, because you're rushed to, well, it's not that the teacher's rushing you, but the class structure kind of feels that way, where I think I only made less than 2 to 3 cylinders in my beginner's course, but over the course of this month, I think I've probably made close to over 10 to 15, which really serves to help improve my skills and takes me from going on autopilot to actively thinking about what step I'm performing and being able to think about why. And in the video, the teacher talks about this concept called the corrective pull, which basically means that you're varying the amount of pressure that you use on your very first pull. So at the bottom of the cylinder, you'll apply a medium amount of pressure, and then towards the middle, where a bulk of the clay is going to be, you apply more pressure, and then you spend a little bit longer making sure you're trying to even out the walls, and then towards the end, you are applying about the same as you did at the beginning, and then you wean off as you get to the very top. Now, I wouldn't say that I follow the corrective pull method to the T, and by the end of September, I kind of changed the way that I do my first pull, but I thought it was really important for me to learn that you should be applying varying amounts of pressure in your first pull, as well as spending different amounts of time in different sections of the cylinder. So I'd say my most common mistake when I was making these pieces was that I didn't have a good enough handle on how to manage the speed of the wheel, as well as managing how long I was spending on each section, and that would cause my pieces to go off center often. And so as the pieces kind of just went all out of whack, I would just cut them open to observe the cross section, because I think you can get a lot of really good information about where you went wrong by examining it. And so for this one, I can really see that in the middle section of the piece that the walls were really thin, causing to the cylinder collapsing. And so aside from all the things that I've learned about pottery from a technical standpoint, I also wanted to talk about what I've learned about myself and how my mentality when it comes to creating and being an artist has shifted over the course of September. So September was the very first full month of me finally posting online and putting myself out there as an artist. And I posted 7 Instagram Reels / TikTok / YouTube Shorts. And I would like to say that I really thought that it would feel way more cringe to put things out there and kind of claim that I am an artist, especially as a beginner, because I think it's very natural to think that it's cringy and I'm not ready yet to put stuff out there if I'm literally a complete beginner with ceramics. But I've really enjoyed it because overall I think it's nice to, at least for me, when I'm watching things online, I like to see the process, and it's cool to watch people grow. And I love seeing myself grow from my very first video, you know, the way that I would shoot it, the way that I'd edit it, to my most recent. I see so much improvement, and I definitely wouldn't have experienced that if I just kept telling myself, oh, I'm not ready yet because I'm not experienced enough. And I think overall it's just been so fun to kind of just have the audacity to try and try out loud, to be a beginner and not care if anyone's judging me, because to be honest, I think I've received so much support and love from whether it be family or friends or other artists in the ceramics and art community that it just really encourages me to keep going no matter what, because it's overall been such a positive experience. Being an artist and, in a sense, being a YouTuber or someone who makes content online has definitely been something that's been on my mind and been kind of a dream for most of my life. I grew up watching all the OG YouTubers and have watched YouTube probably since I was 10 or something like that. And I've seen the platform grow from basically its beginning, and I even remember watching old speed paint videos and just so many different artists grow, and I always wanted that for myself, but I always was so afraid to try. And I think there's many people that feel that exact same way, because the concept of putting yourself out there can really be so daunting, but I would say that it really has been just so positive, and I hope that anybody who's watching, if doing social media or putting your art out there is something that you're interested in, as much as you possibly can, I would try to avoid the fact that you're not, or try to tell yourself that, oh, you're not ready, you're not qualified, because you learn just so much with every single video that you put out there, and eventually you'll find your style. Even for myself, I have this mental note that unless I put out 100 videos on any given platform, I'm not going to, or as best as I can, I won't think to myself, oh, there's no growth, there's no learnings, this is not worth it. Because another thing that I have reframed from this experience so far posting on social media is that opportunity can look like so many different things that you didn't even imagine. When it comes to what opportunity really looks like, I know it's easy to think that it's mostly an analytics and monetary based thing when people think about opportunity, or maybe even getting sent free PR from certain companies or doing sponsorships. But for me, opportunity, that has really changed, because I never really would have imagined that opportunity would come in the form of friendships. So one of my most notable things from being an artist so far is making an actual friend. There's another ceramicist, her name is Meg's Mud, and I'm just gonna shout her out here because I think she's so awesome. It's been super cool to actually connect with somebody, and since we live in the same city, I've actually been able to hang out with her and just really talk to her and feel a sense of like, wow, like there's so many different types of artists out there who are doing things similar to me, and it's nice to have that common thing between you where you're both doing the same thing, which is putting yourself out there, doing art, and resonating with certain struggles and fears. And I really look forward to meeting more and more artists as my journey continues, because at least for myself online, I do try my best to engage with all the other artists that I follow and comment on their stuff or just show them some love, because as a small artist myself, I really appreciate that, and so I try to give that love back to other people. All that to say, being an artist has helped me reawaken my muscle for wanting to make friends, especially as somebody who is post-grad working a 9-to-5 job. It can be really difficult to find a reason or an excuse to go out of your way to make friends, but connecting through art has been a great opportunity for that. And so I once again encourage anybody to go ahead and start whenever it's best for you, because you really could make friends and it's really nice. And one of my favorite things that I was able to do this month was finally get back my 2 pieces that made it all the way to the end of my ceramics class. I ended up making a matcha bowl and this green bowl plate dish. And I eat out of this green one pretty much every single day because I just feel so happy to eat out of something that I made. And I do use the matcha bowl pretty much every day to make my matcha, even though the bowl is definitely too short and I splash a little bit outside of the bowl. But I think maybe food tastes better and matcha tastes sweeter out of a bowl that you made for yourself. Going into October, I definitely look forward to graduating myself from making cylinder after cylinder, and hopefully I'll make some successful mugs. But I do want to consistently make matcha bowls that I feel like fit what in my mind I'm looking to have. So going into October, I have a lot of small personal projects ready for myself that I'm excited to begin. And another highlight from September is that I officially signed up for a membership at the studio that I've been going to, and I've been averaging going into the studio about 3 times a week for sessions about 3 hours long. And sometimes when I go in there, I think that I'm going to create way more pieces and get way more done, but sometimes 3 hours is honestly just not long enough. I wish I could stay there all day, but I have a dog to attend to and I have things to take care of at home, so I can't stay too long, but I always enjoy it, because another thing about doing ceramics and just any type of craft that really requires so much focus and my hands is that I'm able to achieve like a different level of flow state that I think is super hard to unlock outside of that, because there's just so many more distractions. So in the case of ceramics, my hands are so dirty, there's like no way I'm going to take a scroll break and go on my phone and use time on social media. And so in a way, doing ceramics has been a great screen time decreaser, because it just really makes it so it's nearly impossible to go ahead and do that. And I think I might end up kind of sounding like a broken record when it comes to what I think the benefits are about putting yourself out there and making things, whether it be content or art. But genuinely, I think it has really helped stop the doom scrolling so much more, because in a way, I think scrolling has become a default habit for so many people, including myself, and you're basically just a constant consumer. And I think it can be really detrimental to one's creativity, because you see so much beautiful art all the time, and it's kind of, I think, similar to the idea of saying your ideas out loud before you actually act on them. It might even kind of scratch that itch creatively in your mind that you think to yourself that, oh, I could do that, or that's something that I wish I could do, and it prevents you from actually acting upon any creative impulse because you're so sucked into what's on your screen. And so that's been a big shift for myself in September, is that my screen time has definitely decreased, and I don't feel that way. I look at the things on social media genuinely more as inspiration rather than just passive consumption. And that's also been a pretty big game changer for myself mentally, because I think, like I had mentioned, I had always wanted to create, but I never was doing it. It was always something that I was dreaming up in my head, and I literally have had the journal entry in my end of year reflections say like, oh, have you started YouTube yet? Have you started being an artist yet? For so long, and I would always have to reply to my past self and say no, but I look forward to going into the end of the year and being able to finally answer that yes, I finally started. And I think for my younger self, I am so happy to have finally been acting upon that kind of dream, because I think back in time it was something that I just felt like was so impossible, and that's something I would just keep as a dream, but life changes so fast, and I'm really glad that it's started now. It's because better late than never. And that brings me into something else I would also want to talk about. It's just that I know that for the end of the year, there's like the concept of like the great lock-in, where instead of saving your goals for January 1st, you start at the beginning of Q4. And I would like to offer an alternative to the great lock-in, or even January 1st of being the jumping point for any goals that you have. I love the idea of starting something on a random day, because for me, I feel like when you think and think and think and plan and plan and plan for something that you're trying to accomplish, you kind of get lost in the sauce of planning and premeditating what it is that you want to do, that you are probably less likely to do it. Obviously, there's many things in life where you should plan ahead, but for something like art or creation, sometimes just starting on a random day, or even you decide a random day that you want to start learning a language again, picking up an instrument again, drawing again, painting again, whatever it might be, just starting it on a random day, I feel can really alleviate that pressure that all that buildup has kind of led to. So maybe even if, for example, if you're like me, there have been many times where back when I was in college and I had to study, if I put on my calendar, I want to study biology or I want to study computer science from like 7:30 to 9, and I don't start at 7:30 and it's suddenly 7:35, I'm like, oh no, like my time is wrong and I have to wait until the numbers even. And so I put off studying, and it kind of would give me the excuse of just continuing to put things off. But sometimes in that situation, something that I feel like I wish I had done was just, if it was 7:36, just start at 7:36. Like, it, just because you have a bad few minutes, just because you have a bad morning, a bad afternoon, or a bad evening, does not mean your day is ruined. And just starting, no matter what, if you can, I feel like really helps to take
I think for
a lot
myself,
of pressure
when it came
of
to
premeditation
finally
away. Enrolling in a pottery class, I really just picked it on a random day, because I know that for myself, if I'm not going to class, or if I'm not having that kind of external pressure to go somewhere and actually do something, I don't think I would do it. And I know that maybe in today's like hustle culture, there's a lot of emphasis on having a lot of self-discipline. But for me, when it comes to making art, I think if you're doing something that you really love, and I just can only speak for myself, but all the things that I've been putting out and the things that I've been doing come from a strong place of love and self-compassion, and I don't feel myself rushing or having any high expectations as well. And I think if you're like me, having this looming, I guess almost boogeyman figure of having to be self-disciplined to the max, and if you're not self-disciplined, you're kind of a failure, it makes you afraid to try, because then you're like, oh, if I try and I don't keep up with it, then I'm not disciplined and then I'm a loser. That kind of negative thinking doesn't really work for me, and so that's why I like starting on a random day, and that's why I don't like having high expectations, because inevitably for me that opens up my heart to being free and doing things just because I want to, not because I'm somehow kind of forcing myself to do it in the name of staying strict and staying disciplined. And so those are all of my long form thoughts about everything that I've learned about myself and learned about pottery this month. But I did want to end off the video sharing a little bit about my dog. I did show him at the beginning, but I just wanted to kind of introduce him. So his name is Kolache, and he's a Yorkie Terrier, and he's mixed with something, but we adopted him from a friend who had gotten him from a shelter and was looking to give him a new home. But we don't know what he's mixed with, and so our plan is for his first birthday, we're going to get him one of those dog DNA tests, and we're going to throw him a party and show off what he's actually mixed with. But right now, he's about 8 months old. He was born in February of this year, and he's so cute. He's definitely in his teenage rebellious phase. And if you have any dog parent advice for dealing with dogs this age, and just let me know and remind me that it hopefully does get better as they age, I'd really appreciate it. But overall, he's a very sweet, playful, and people-friendly dog. He thinks everybody's his best friend, and he thinks all dogs are also his best friend. He has gone through puppy first grade and puppy kindergarten, so I guess you could say he's a little bit of a smarty pants. But overall, he brings a lot of joy into me and my boyfriend's lives. I love just having him around, and he's super soft, and I just love spending time with him. He gives me a great break after staring at my computer screen all the time while working my 9 to 5. So being able to just focus on something that's not screen related is also a great thing to have in my life. And in this clip, my boyfriend had randomly discovered that Kolache was good at learning how to do a high 5, or maybe a high 10 if you will. But look at him go. He's so cute, and he looks so eager to keep going to get treats. He's a very food motivated dog, which is good for us because he's definitely not the aloof kind of dog. He's very eager to learn new things. And the last thing I wanted to share about Kolache was that something that I've always said about him ever since we got him was that I always felt like he had boba bubbles for eyes, or tapioca pearls. I don't know how you guys describe boba. There's many ways. But whenever he looks up at me, I always feel like he looks like he has little bubbles for eyes. And it just makes him super cute. I've never seen a Yorkie that looks like this, but I think he's really cute and always looks super happy. And he's always been this way ever since he was a baby and he was small. He was always just such an eager little fellow. I mean, look at him. He's so cute, and he's just looking around, wanting to see what's going on, guys. What's going on? That's what I always feel like he's wondering. He always wants to know what's up and wants to be a part of it no matter what it is. And now that we're wrapping up this September Notes video, I look forward to sharing everything that I get up to for the month of October, and thank you for watching.